Hi people! In this video we're going to go through the good and the bad of healing parses and logs. I mean, are they good at determining who's the better healer? Do the numbers really reflect performance? And are they even measuring the right thing? And are healing parses meaningful to look at? And also, how you can skew the healing to give yourself better parses. Throughout this video, I will compare healing logs with DPS logs just to get some sort of perspective on them. To start off, let's look at what really differs a DPS log from a healing log. If you are DPSing, you kinda have an unlimited punching bag in the sense that there is really no upper limit of how much DPS you can do. Sure, if you did 2 million DPS, you could kill the boss instantly, but we all know that isn't happening in reality. Now, some fights are more suited for a certain class, but since the parses are comparing you to your own class, it still works quite well. If you are healing, however, there isn't an unlimited punching bag. There is only so much damage going out, and all healers will in a sense have to fight over being the first to heal someone. This is a very important factor, and in the end it's the whole reason for why healing logs and parses are more tricky to interpret and more easy to skew. Now, before we move on, we should really decide, or at least try to decide, what makes a good healer or a strong healing class or a strong healing build. Is it the total HPS that you can perform regardless of the healing you can produce before going Or is it the total amount of healing you can produce before going regardless of your HPS? Is it the class and the build with the best compromise between high HPS and big healing output over time? Once you start getting more deep into healing, it starts to become pretty unclear and advanced rather quickly. As a DPS, you perform your rotation as good as you can. You use mana consumables and abilities to not go if you have mana, and you monitor your threats. You always use max rank abilities, and the decisions you have to make are typically which ability to prioritize over the other one. Often it is rather obvious, and in some cases you only use 1 or 2 abilities anyway. When it comes to kill order, this should be decided by your raid leader and you just follow it. There is of course more to be said about DPSing in raids, but I think this covers it pretty well, and the video isn't about DPS parses, so we're gonna move on now. As a healer, however, there is no rotation to follow. You have to react to what happens around you, as there is no guarantee who will be needing a heal next. Often you have to make split-second decisions about who to prioritize with your heals, and you also have to come up with a plan for how to deal with the situation. With experience, you start get a feeling for how to heal, but to a large extent, healing is dealing with chaos. You don't know whether the tank will dodge the next hit or take a crushing blow followed by a shadow flame, and you don't know if a DPS will over aggro and half the raid will get hit by shadow flame. As the raid damage goes out, you have to decide which spells you're going to use to heal up the players. All of these decisions eventually lead to one of the biggest challenges as a healer: resource management. If you've gone once the boss reaches 40%, you're kinda useless as a healer. You do of course have runes and potions and maybe a mana tide totem or an innervate, but that's it. You have to always keep in mind that the decisions you make at the beginning of a fight can have major consequences at the end of a fight. Now, healing parses only take healing per second into account, and this is, in practice, another one of the biggest reasons as for why healing parses can be greatly skewed. The faster a boss dies, the less the healers have to worry about going from using fast but mana-expensive heals. With enough damage, the healing logs become more of a measurement of which healer is using the faster and stronger heals. For example, a Resto Druid with proper talents and enough pieces of tier 2 can get about a 70% crit chance on regrowth, and also get the casting time down to 1.3 seconds. This allows the Druid to snipe heal before any other healers can get their heals off. If the fight is short enough and enough mana consumables are used, The druid can sustain this very strong but very mana-expensive healing style over a short period of time and thus get amazing HPS and therefore get amazing Parses. To a certain extent, healing Parses tells you how good DPS the raid has. Another important factor is the amount of healers. As said before, there is only so much damage going out to the raid, and bringing lesser healers means that there is more raid damage available per healer. So far we've talked about some factors that affects which healing Parses you can perform. It should of course be said that it doesn't all come down to the things I mentioned. Staying focused, being alert and awake, having good gear, getting world buffs and bringing your mana consumables are all things which greatly affects your HPS and healing output. However, actually trying is the fundamental factor. If the healer isn't putting in the effort, nothing else will help. Not world buffs, not any gear, not any consumables. Nothing will make any change if the healer isn't trying. Regardless, we are now going to look at how guilds can actively skew the healing logs to have a few healers get really good Parses. One way is to let a few selected healers be the only ones healing players above, let's say 70%, essentially meaning that these few can completely avoid overhealing and have a way larger amount of raid damage available to them. You could also let certain mechanics go through in order to increase the amount of damage available. For example, if you don't trank Flame Gore, then the AoE will increase the raid damage going out and thus giving the healers a better chance to get higher Parses. On top of that, on some bosses in Molten Core, you could legit have players stand in the lava just to further increase the amount of available raid damage. These and many others are ways in which you could attempt to skew healing Parses. But there is one important factor left. How many guilds are actually doing this? If almost no guilds attempt to skew the logs, then it won't really matter. Skewing logs is something which might matter at the top 100 performances at a certain boss. But more than 99.9% of players are not part of the top 100. And thus it shouldn't really be an issue. In the end, there are many factors affecting healing Parses that aren't really a result of the healer's dedication or skill. But this is however when you're comparing between raids. When you're comparing the healers in your raid, healing logs are very useful and truthful, especially if you're looking at the total healing done during the entire raid. If a healer is only looking for good Parses on the boss fights, then they're likely more slacking on trash, which will be reflected in their average HPS. When comparing healers of the same class in the same raid, with the same healing assignments and roughly the same gear, you've eliminated pretty much all the outlying factors. The remaining difference there is a difference in skill and effort. Of course, randomness can happen, but this can be countered by looking at performance over several raids. If Raid Healing Priest number 1 does a 95 parse and Raid Healing Priest 2 does a 75 parse, that is a real difference of skill and efforts. And to be fair, what good is skill if you aren't using it anyway? In a situation like this, healing Parses are very useful. So, to give a summary. There are many factors that affect healing Parses, and there are ways to skew the Parses. But meanwhile, healing logs aren't perfect. They're probably the best tool we have to get an idea of how much skill and effort a healer is putting in. And this is especially true if you're looking at the total healing done during encounters and trash within the same raid. Now, healing isn't always too fun. It's literally something you do for the sake of the raid. However, healing Parses does give you a way to compete and provide you with a reason to put in efforts even when the raid is on farm. In the end, it all comes down to the golden rule of healing. Anything above 0 is good enough. The healer's function is to keep players from dying, and some are better at that than others. Sometimes the Parses are completely skewed, but most of the times the Parses are probably the best way to get an idea of a healer's skill and efforts. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you feel like I'm missing something important, then please let me know in a comment below. Like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more. I also stream over at twitch.tv/neceriumclouds. If you have any questions or just wanna say hi, that is the best place to do so. Before ending this video, I wanna give a warm thanks to anyone who has whispered me in game or tuned into the stream just to let me know that they enjoy the content that I do. I'd also like to give a special thanks to the ones who have decided to give me their Twitch primes or even donated. I take that as a big compliment. Anyway, that was all for this video. I'll be back soon with another one, and until then, see ya!